Okay, so then we get into page 221, and we have different cadential endings for the soprano line. You can look over them. In letter A, we have conclusive endings with the soprano line. Notice the dominant chord, again, is always in root position. In letter B, we have less conclusive ones. That's when we're using seventh chords. Right? Notice the difference. When you're using a seventh chord, you could have, I'm sorry, not tend to, but you could have a less conclusive cadence. You can also have a less conclusive cadence when you go, letter B, second measure, you go dominant to tonic. I'm sorry, the dominant chord to the tonic chord, but you don't end with the tonic pitch. Or you can still go dominant in root position, tonic in root position in the bass line, but in the soprano line, you're not in the tonic, ending on the tonic pitch. You're ending on a different pitch. The pitch is within the same tonic chord, but it's not the tonic pitch. That's a less conclusive cadence. Inconclusive cadences for letter C, you can look at them. That's when, again, you end on the dominant. Okay, on the top of page 222, example 11.9, you can look at examples of cadences in two voices. Notice the strong conclusive cadences in letter G. I'm sorry, the key of G, measure 1, letter A. You have in the bass line a 5-to-1 motion there, progression. And again, the root position, dominant chord, the root position, tonic chord. And in the soprano line, you have a 2-1 progression, scale degree 2 to scale degree 1. So you end with the tonic. So you end with the tonic, you have an octave here, G to G, both are a tonic. You have a strong conclusive cadence. Letter B, you can also go scale degree 7 to 1 in the soprano line, and again, in the bass line, you have dominant to tonic. This time it moves down. It's okay, it's still in root position with the Roman numerals, and you have a strong conclusive cadence. Now, if you change any of those factors, you run into less conclusive cadences. Notice in letter C, you still have root position chords, you still have the dominant to tonic in the bass line, but because you have a seventh chord, a dominant seventh chord, you're using 7 to 3, scale degrees 7 to scale degree 3. In the soprano line, it's not as conclusive. The same thing happens in letter D, letter E, and letter F. So take a look at that. Just because you're in root position doesn't mean you're going to have a strong cadence. You have to have the tonic ending with the tonic pitch in the soprano and bass clef. Okay, so for example 11.10, you can look at those cadential endings as well. Notice specifically letter C with the octave leap in the cadence, with between the dominant pitches, C, leaping down octave to C, back up to the tonic. That's another way to end it too. Do try it number 3. Check your answers in the back of the book. Then look at opening the counterpoint. Here's some ways you can open your counterpoint. If you're in a major key, for instance in the key of D major, here's some strong openings. Of course, you can use the tonic octave. The tonic octave there, that's a strong opening. So is if you use the tonic in first inversion with an F sharp and then a D. Now the reason that's strong is because you have the third of the chord, which tells you if it's major or minor. Remember, the third of a chord tells you major or minor, because if the third is a major third above the tonic, you've got a major chord. If it's been lowered a half step, you've got a minor third. So the fact that you have the tonic, which is in the soprano in this case, and the third, which is in the bass, establishes you in the key of D major. Letter C, same thing. You have a tonic with the third. That's another strong opening because you are in the key of D major, obviously. But letter D, if you were to start with this, you could be in the key of D minor. We don't know because there's no third to tell you what key you're really in. You just have an open, ambiguous fifth. Now for letter E, it's the same thing. It's ambiguous because you might be in the key of F sharp minor. We don't know. We have an F sharp and an A, the third and the fifth. If you use the third and the fifth of a chord, it's ambiguous. You need to have the tonic and then either the tonic octave or the tonic with the third. All right, well, if you have something called an anacrusis. An anacrusis is when you have a pickup measure. If you look at on page 224, the top, example 11.12. You're in the key of E flat major, 4/4 time signature, which means there's 4 beats to a measure. But the first beat only has 1 beat. That's actually the 4th beat, it's the last beat of the measure. Okay, so that's beat 4, and it's a pickup measure or an anacrusis to the first full measure. So that's what an anacrusis is. And now if you're opening with an anacrusis, there's certain ways to do that. Letter A, notice you can open with the dominant chord. So if you're in the key of E flat major, B flat's the dominant. And notice you open with a B flat octave to the tonic and first inversion. Letter B, you can also open with the dominant and first inversion up to a tonic octave. And notice you don't use 2 octaves because then you have parallel octaves. Letter C, here's another way you can open. You can, and again, the dominant, you're going to open, usually you're going to open with the dominant chord in some type of way, whether it's root position, first inversion 7th chord, etc. Letter D, you can also open with just the B flat, just the dominant pitch. So that's another thing to take notice of when you're writing your pieces. All right, to finish the chapter, I'm just going to go to page 231 and have you read the summary. Basically, the rest of the chapter is you're writing for this counterpoint, the species counterpoint that you've always been writing for. You're just adding the new rules. You just keep using passing tones just like you've been using them. Use neighbor tones the same way, suspensions, just like you've been using all of those. Chordal skips, same way. You're just adding the new rules that we just went over in this chapter. So don't let this scare you, all right? Keep using the same rules, avoid parallel octaves, etc. Follow everything, keep it the same, just add the new openings, the new cadential endings, okay? And then it should help you understand this chapter, which again I said has a lot of writing in it to cover a few simple concepts. So, see how you do now with your workbook.